Installing laminate on stairs is probably one of those things that scares the crap out of a lot of people, but it's a lot easier than you might think. So welcome back to Canadian DIY. I'm Jesse, and today I'm going to show you how to install laminate on some steps and get a fantastic result. If you can do 2 steps like this, you can do an entire staircase, so check it out. First things first, just make sure to leave your flooring in the room you're going to be installing it in for about 48 hours before you need it to let it get used to the temperature and humidity in the room. And now we got some prep work to do, so we got to take all the old flooring off the steps and any old junk that might come with it. That includes old linoleum like I had here, glue, backing material, carpet, tack strips, nails, staples, whatever you got sticking up, go ahead and take it all off. I had 2 layers of linoleum on mine. I ended up leaving the gold stuff because it was really well adhered and I didn't want to fight with it anymore, so I just went right over top of it. But take a putty knife, a paint scraper, and just go over the whole works and get as much up as you can and then give it a good vacuuming. So with everything removed and prepped, now we can go ahead and start getting the steps ready for our laminate install. Now, you'll see here that our toe kick actually comes out from our riser on every step. And there's 2 ways we can deal with this. You can take an oscillating saw or a jigsaw or something like that, and you can cut this toe kick off flush with the riser. Easier way I like to do it is we're actually going to build the riser out to be flush with our toe kick. So that way we have a straight edge, straight edge, straight edge, straight edge all the way across. That way we can glue our laminate down. This is really hard sitting like this, but these steps are so low, this is the only way I can do it. So now we're going to grab our straight edge here, whatever you want, square, anything that you have kicking around. And we're going to set it flush with our toe kick there. And we're just going to grab a measurement from our riser. In this case, I've got 1 inch here, and I've got 3/4 of an inch here that I have to build this out. So I'm just going to take some plywood, and I'm going to attach it across here, and we're going to build this guy out. Again, if you've only got limited materials, you can attach vertical strips to use less material, less plywood, or you can just attach an entire piece, glue it and nail it in place. It's entirely up to you. With my plywood pieces cut, I got some 2-inch nails loaded in the nail gun. It's time to go to work. Now you can use construction adhesive here, but I've got a lot of wood glue on hand and that's going to be plenty strong to glue these pieces into place. So once you've got it slid over, just go ahead and nail it like crazy, kind of like I did here, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. The more nails the better, and the less squeaks you're going to develop over time the more nails and glue you use. Now on my bottom, I didn't have enough 1/4 inch plywood to go around, so like I said before, I just cut a few of the 1/4 inch strips and then attached a 3/4 inch slab in front of it, and that gave me my 1 inch kick out that I needed. Alright, now that our stairs built out flush with our toe kick, now we can get into the meat and potatoes, and that's going to be getting ready to install our laminate floor. But one thing you'll notice is on my flooring here, I actually stayed back from my steps a few inches just because, well, A, this was a full plank and that's just happened to be where it ended, but B, I didn't actually know where my stair nosing was going to land depth-wise, so I didn't know how far out I should bring this upper piece of laminate. I cut off my stair nosing here, just a small piece of it, just so you can see it. Now this is what it looks like right here. Now right here, there's actually a small little C-channel groove that we're going to screw down to the floor, and that is actually going to snap into it. So in order to figure out my depth to bring out my flooring, what I actually did was I took just a scrap piece of laminate, set it in place, and then I took my stair nosing and actually snugged it up tight to there. Now you can see my little groove right there, and that basically tells me about where that's going to end. Now I want to stay back from that just a little bit because I got to add in room for the metal. Now it's really hard to see here. You can kind of see it when I grab the tape measure and hit it up against there, but there is a small lip right there. That's the lip I'm going to come out to. So to measure from the back side of my nosing right there to that lip gives me 1 1/4 inches. So what I did was I took my floor piece, pulled my tape measure, pulled back, made a mark on the floor 1 1/4 inches, and that gives me my exact measurement for my new piece that I can lay down And now I can get started putting my flooring on. Now when it comes to measuring for your tread plate, you're definitely going to want to take a measurement at the front and the back side of the step just to make sure that nothing's at a square and your walls are straight. Mine were fairly good, so I just ran with it, but you may have to transfer 2 different measurements onto your piece and cut it to length. Now when it comes to the length, I'm leaving an 1/8 of an inch short, and that gives me a 1/16 inch gap on each side. So I've got a snug fit but not a tight fit, and it allows me to get it in there. Now you can see I've got a gap at the front and a gap at the back because my piece isn't long enough to fit, or wide enough, sorry. So what I did was I took my stair nosing and a scrap piece and I made a mark. That's where my flooring has to come out to. So now I can grab that entire measurement, take 2 pieces of tread plate, and I can attach them together and then transfer that measurement over to those pieces, cut them to width, and then reinstall it and double check. With all the pieces cut, now we can go ahead and give them a test fit. Now one thing you'll notice on the front and the back side of my laminate here I cut from my tread, I cut the tongue and the groove off of each piece. You're definitely going to want to make sure you do that from here on going out. But a quick double check to this guy and it looks good. So now we can go ahead and prep this for install. Now the difference between installing laminate on your floor and laminate on stairs is this is not floating. There's no underlayment here, and we are gluing and nailing this straight down to the floor, down to the steps. So go ahead and add a whole bunch of wood glue. Again, the more you add, the less squeaks you're going to have over time, and then press it into place. Now you can either weigh this down or you can nail it into place just like we did with our riser there with our plywood. I'm doing a combination of both. I'm weighing down the center and then I'm putting a nail into each corner. The front corners are going to be hidden by the stair nosing if you come right to the edge, and the back corners are going to be hidden by our risers when we put those on. Now when it comes to measuring the height of our stair riser, one thing to keep in mind of is depending on how thick your laminate is will depend on how high you need to come up with your riser. You can't come just flush with your old step because that might not actually be high enough. Now remember, there's all different thicknesses of laminate, so you got to account for that. So in my case, I've got 7 inches exactly. Will take me to about an 1/8 of an inch above my old step. Now the reason that's important is if we actually take our stair nosing and we set it on top of there and we hold it flat, you'll see that there is a small gap underneath here. So if I only brought my riser up to be flush with the step, I would actually, every time you step on it, it would actually push the nosing down. So what I have to do is I actually have to bring my riser up slightly above the step here in order to make it flush with the bottom side of my stair nosing right here, and that will actually give me a flush surface, so every time somebody steps on it, nothing's going to flex and give. So with that in mind, I've got my 2 pieces that I'm going to use for my riser here. Obviously this is too tall right now. I know I need 7 inches exactly, but if I measure 7 inches exactly, I'm only going to have about a centimeter piece of this top board here, which won't really look good. So I'm actually going to measure from here down, and I'm going to make my mark and cut this side off so it will shift this line down just like my tread plate here, and that will actually give me 2 good sizes of boards just for aesthetic purposes. Now I'm going to show you how to install the risers, whether you've got the tongue side or the groove side sticking up for your 2 pieces. Now in this case, I have the groove side sticking up. So once you've got it glued, I'm just going to go ahead and attach a brad nail through the groove, and that'll hide my nails so I don't have anything visible. Then I can add a thin bead of glue, and I mean a thin bead of glue, to the groove, attach my second piece, and then I can nail through the face of that one, and those nails will be hidden by the stair nosing.
Now on this one I've got the tongue side facing up, and I've also made this out of 2 pieces. I'm making my steps out of scrap wood that I had kicking around, so you can absolutely do that. But just like before, I'm adding wood glue to the groove side of my second board because that's where the groove was, and then I'm just going to lock the steps into place with each other, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my nails into the top corners, which again will be hidden by the stair nosing just like before. Now you can also add a nail into the bottom corner of each one of these where they won't be seen if you want to.
Step 7 is our stair nosing. Now, the easiest way to install that, if you really want to right now, I've done it before, nobody's going to blame you. Go ahead and just cut it to length and brad nail it in place. Quick, simple, done. Only thing is, you're going to have some brad nail holes in the top that you're going to have to fill in. Just touch them up with a little bit of wood filler. Find a stain that's really close to the flooring color you've got. Touch it up with a Q-tip. Problem solved. However, if you want to use a little metal track that it comes with and snap it down into place, we're going to have to do just a little bit more work here yet. Now, depending on what thicknesses of laminate you have, they come in like a 4 all the way up to a 16 mil. I've got a 12 mil here that I installed. You may need to shim your floor up to hold your track in order for your stair nosing to actually snap down into it, because otherwise your track is too low because the laminate's too thick.
Now as you can see here, I've got quite the gap between my 2 pieces of laminate. So with a 1/4 inch piece of plywood, it's going to shim up my metal track, and that puts me about perfect. So now I need to cut a whole bunch of these little 1/4 inch shims to fit underneath my track in between my 2 laminate steps. But hey, gotta do what's gotta be done. With the stair nosing cut to length, all we got to do is get our track down. Now I'm just putting a bead of glue on all these little shims and then 1 nail into each edge, and that's plenty to hold it in place. Now I'm using my stair nosing to set the depth of my track. Now this will actually just get it exactly where I need it to, and just go ahead and use a few number 6 1-inch long wood screws and screw the track down. Just a quick double check, everything looks golden, so now we can move on. Now one thing I can tell you that will make your life a lot easier getting that stair nosing into the track is take a pair of pliers and just open up the track ever so slightly. You can see I'm not doing much, I'm just folding the edges open just a little bit, because if you don't do it, snapping this track in is going to be near impossible. Now I had to make a couple of relief cuts for my little kickouts there, and as well as for my baseboard, but it's nothing. You might have to do it. If it's a flat piece, that'll just make it way easier. Now I like to start at one end, go ahead and get it lined up, lower it into place, and then just smack it down from one side to the other. Nothing scientific. All that's left is some finishing touches. So we're going to finish any nail holes you may have put through the face of your wood, or any that may still be visible. Now those are easily filled in with just a little bit of wood filler, smear it on your finger and just touch it to the nail hole, and then wipe it off with some paper towel. Once it's dry, we can come back and stain it with a Q-tip and a stain that closely matches your flooring. Now in my case it's carbon gray, and I'm also going to put a little bit along the inside edge where I had a little bit of chip out and I could see the fibers underneath. This step is totally optional. In my case though, I've got winter time, so these are inevitably going to get wet and get water on them, but I'm using some transparent waterproof silicone, and I'm just going to seal up the edge between my tread plate and my riser. I'm also going to put some along my edges to seal up that 1/16 inch gap that I left beforehand. Again, you don't have to do this, totally optional, but I like the finished look that it gives. Just make sure if you do this to have a very small tip cut on your silicone. You do not want to apply a whole bunch of material here. Just a thin bead to fill in the gap. You don't really want to get a whole bunch all over the steps because it is going to end up glossy if you do. So what do you think? looks a whole lot better than the mess we started with, don't you think? I think they turned out fantastic. I'm super pumped with it. If you guys end up using anything that I showed in this video, if you guys tackle a project like this, let me know down below. I would love to hear it. Until next time, thanks a lot for watching, you guys. I'll see you later.